I say, boy, anybody that tells you that life is boring these days, you ought not listen to it and just run on off, says Foghorn Leghorn. Oh my word, there is so much news going on right now. Holy cow, this is going to be an amazing night on the Electronic Front Porch, and I am so glad that you are here to join me. We have got a ton of stuff to talk about. Oh, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know. Hi, but in the meanwhile, let me do a quick introduction. Hi, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome back for another session of Chattin on the Porch, a live stream dedicated to allowing you, the hardworking souls out there in internet land, the chance to catch up on what's going on in the world and talk about it. And boy, have we got a lot to talk about. Oh my Lord, news is breaking everywhere you turn, and man, some of it's small, some of it's big, some of it's just amazing. I don't know how we're going to squeeze it all in tonight. It's going to be a miracle if we get all this in. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitter. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, a Gettr, a gab. Tell your friends to get in here. My God, have we got so much stuff to talk about. It's just a miracle. I don't know how we're going to do it. And Miss Z Highness is here starting us off. Welcome, my darling. Good to see ya. Representing the 199. Good grief. I love y'all. Love y'all. Shoot, sister, you ain't kidding. I have never seen a day. Well, I thought when I woke up this morning, this was going to be a slow news day. No. Woo. Have we got a ton of stuff to talk about tonight. Glad to have y'all here with us. WWG1's over there on Rumble. Good evening. TBA, howdy in chat. Good to have y'all here. Hang on a minute, WWG1. I'm going to try and do something right now while I'm thinking about it. Let's see if I can do this. Manage. Is that what I'm looking for? Still trying to figure out how to make you a mod. We'll figure that out at some point in all this. I don't know. Well, it'll come to me. Anyhow, oh gosh, it's crazy out there. Just crazy. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to manage you as much as I want to promote you. Well, anyway, we'll figure this out. We'll figure it out before this night is done. Anywho, glad to have y'all here with us tonight. Oh my gosh, so much is going on. So much is going on. Anywho, glad to have you here with us. I want to start off tonight by way of a public service announcement. We've got a special live stream coming up tomorrow, and some of you guys have already heard about it on Twitter and Gettr and other places around here. But if you haven't yet, this one's going to be fun. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., I'm having some old friends back on the Electronic Front Porch that I haven't talked to some of them in a little while. I haven't talked to some in a big, long while, and anywhere in between. And this is going to be just a load of fun. So do me a favor, spread the word around. I'm already putting it out there. We're going to have Pride Month preview. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. In all of everything that's going on, you thought that Pride Month was just going to slip on by quietly. Oh, nay, but no. I've got Mike Harlow, Daniel and Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast, Gothics, and you never know who else might show up for this shindig. I've got some other invitations out there. I haven't heard back yet, but for sure, these four wonderful individuals are confirmed. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be on YouTube. We're going to be on Rumble. We're going to be on Twitter. Who knows? We might get thrown off of YouTube, but you know what? I'll risk it because I believe in free speech. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Pride Month, or as my good buddy Mike Harlow calls it, the holy month of obligation. Because there's some things that have been going on leading up to this, and it's all been very quiet. Not a lot's been made about it, but you know this is coming, so we may as well talk about it. And given that each of these, and this part I'm serious about, given that each of these individuals has been talking about this on their own channels, they've been doing videos about it, they've been really at the tip of the spear, talking about all these issues, around the LGBT community in America, how it's related to kids, drag queen story hours, everything, I thought, I want to get these folks together because there's some things I want to ask because, let's be honest about it. I touch on the cultural a little bit, but, mostly my lane is politics. On the other hand, most of these folks, their main lane is cultural and societal, and then sometimes touch on politics. Well, every so often our paths are going to cross, and this is one of those moments. And I thought, I haven't talked to some of these people in a while, and I'd love to get them back and just have a conversation with them. So 6 o'clock tomorrow night, please, please, please do me a favor and be here for it. Okay, let us get into, I said this evening, I said, I don't know how we're going to get all of the news in that has happened today, but I tell you what, it has just been straight crazy. All right. And it started off this morning with an announcement out of the British Isles that a lot of people didn't see coming. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what, I'll give the Tories, who are the majority ruling party in Great Britain, a lot of credit, and their Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, a ton of credit. He kept this one really close to the vest. But this morning it was announced that snap elections were going to be called in Great Britain. We go to the UK Guardian to start our coverage thereof. Why Rishi Sunak is calling a general election now and what happens next. The next 6 weeks or so will see the leaders of the political parties make their case to be the next prime minister. And honestly, I love the format that this is done in by the Guardian. I give them a lot of credit because these are all the questions that I would be asking. So let's just take a look at what's going on. When will the election take place? Rishi Sunak has called a UK general election for July 4th. Oh, the irony is not lost on me for that one. A Thursday, as is traditional. This is just inside the second half of the year, as he promised. However, the timing is not ideal for voters in some parts of the country, including Scotland and Northern Ireland, where school holidays will have already started and many people may be away. All right, now I want to talk about this for a second. Look, I will tell you up front, I am no expert on British politics. Matter of fact, some people say you're no expert on American politics, but all right, I got a better feel for American politics than I do British politics. But regardless of whether it's British or American, the fact that he's timing this in such a way that some voters may not be voting in certain parts of the country, I've got a feeling I know why he's doing that. He's trying to limit his losses. I mean, look, it has been known for quite some time, even to a casual observer of British politics, that the ruling majority party, the Tories, are headed for an electoral wipeout, the likes of which, if you want a comparison, think 2010 here in America, think 2014, go back to 1994. I mean, we're talking about a drubbing, the likes of which the Tories have not known maybe in a century. So understanding that this is coming, Sunak, as the leader of the party, is probably trying to limit his losses as much as he can. In other words, look, I know I'm going to get my butt kicked, but if I time this election just the right way, maybe I don't get it kicked quite as badly as I could have. That's just my thoughts on it. Anyway, moving along. Why is he calling it now? Again, this is from the UK Guardian. The Prime Minister has been saying for some weeks there was evidence that the economy was improving. In his speech outside Number 10, Sunak said the government had reached two major milestones of reducing inflation and growing the economy faster than other G7 countries. However, the opposition is likely to argue he's calling one now because the economy is stalling and things are unlikely to look better for the Conservatives in the autumn, when small boat crossings expected to continue despite any deportation flights taking off to Rwanda and very limited room for tax cuts. What happens next? Rishi Sunak has been granted permission from the King for the dissolution of Parliament. The ability to call elections returned to royal prerogative after the period from 2011 to 2022, when MPs could vote on calling an early election outside a fixed 5-year parliamentary term. What happens to Parliament? There are usually several days after an election is called and Parliament is dissolved or prorogued. There's a word I've never seen before. Prorogued before dissolution. I got to look up that word. That's interesting. Sunak said Parliament would end on May 30th. Any last bits of legislation will have to be passed in the coming days, with bills that do not make it being abandoned as they cannot be carried over. What happens to the MPs? After Parliament is dissolved, MPs will return to their constituencies to begin campaigning. Think of MPs as the equivalent of members of the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay, probably the best way to describe an MP. However, government ministers will still hold their posts and responsibilities. Government activities restricted, though, during the campaign, so the public money is not spent on political purposes. How long will the campaign be? Well, for the next 5 or 6 weeks, Sunak, Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, Richard Tice, the Reform leader, Carla Denyer and Adrian Ramsay, the Green Party leaders, and others will tour the UK to make their case to be the UK's next prime minister. And then it goes on to questions about when will their manifestos be launched? Will there be TV debates? What happens on polling day? Polls will open at 7 a.m., close at 10. At the close of an exit poll is published, which tends to be correctly accurate of the results. And then we'll know who the next prime minister is based on who's got the majority of the party. Now, like I said, to most people who watch British politics, they knew an election was coming. They figured it was coming maybe sometime this fall. They also theorized that Sunak would call for a snap election, which is exactly what he's done. Well, what's going to be the result of all this? Does this grand strategy that Rishi Sunak has put in place, is it really going to help him? Well, Peter McIlvena, who is from Heart of Oaks, somebody who works over in Great Britain, keeps an eye on British politics, among other things, was on War Room with Steve Bannon, and he was asked his opinion of the whole matter. Do me a favor, folks, and check this out.
Happening, but Rishi Sunak has realized he's come to the end of the road. His 5 promises, basically he hasn't delivered any of them. He's been there since October 22, and he's realized that actually there's no point in going on. A lot of people said he'll hang on to the bitter end. I think this is the bitter end, and he's hoping to grab the best bit of good news, but it's going to be a Tory wipeout, probably the biggest defeat for over 100 years. But remember, the Conservatives are the most successful parliamentary party in the world. They've been around since 1812. They're not going to go anywhere very quickly, but the polls are looking like Labour have a huge majority, and that's not because Labour give anything. It's actually because the Tories don't have anything left in the tank, and people just want to change. And we have a uni party, red or blue, Tory Labour, on the left and centre left, and people are going to go more left. And the woke ideology, the onslaught of the Marxist agenda, cultural Marxism, is going to continue apace from July, when I expect Keir Starmer to be voted in head of the Labour Party, and we're going to have a fun 5 years. If anyone thought the last couple of years had been a roller coaster, just wait until we have the next 5 years, because it's going to be woke agenda on steroids.
Oh, there's a truly cheery thought. So that's what's going on in the old mother country. Oh boy. Buckle up, y'all, because this is going to get real interesting. Really interesting. Yeah, it's going to be fun watching this one go down. So if you thought American politics was going to be fun this summer and fall, oh, here comes your preview of things to come, of coming attractions straight out of the British Isles. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that one to your attention. Now, there's some more breaking news. And this happened just about the time I was getting off work today. I'm sure you guys have heard about this in one form or another, but if you haven't, let me set this up for you. As many of you will remember, from the New Hampshire primary up until the time that she dropped out, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley engaged in a very spirited and, in some cases, vicious campaign for the Republican nomination against former President Trump. In the end, she lost, as many expected. And then there's the million-dollar question, what is she going to do? Well, for the longest time, Nikki Haley had gone radio silent. I mean, she had gone underground. Nobody had heard. I mean, there were some public appearances, but nothing as far as the campaign, nothing with regard to really what was going on until today, ladies and gentlemen. From CNN, Nikki Haley says she's voting for Trump in November. Article by Eric Bradner, Jeff Zelny, and Allison Main over at CNN. Former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, says she plans to vote for Donald Trump. She said Wednesday in her first public remarks since exiting the Republican presidential primary more than 2 months ago. Well, let's hear what she's got to say, because this is a fairly momentous thing, and we've got the audio for you. So, hey, Smokey, roll them over there for me, will you?
I put my priorities on a president who's going to have the backs of our allies and hold our enemies to account, who would secure the border, no more excuses, a president who would support capitalism and freedom, a president who understands we need less debt, not more debt. Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump. Having said that, I stand by what I said in my suspension speech. Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me, and not assume that they're just going to be with him. And I genuinely hope he does that.
Okay, folks, let me translate that for you. Now, the first 40 seconds of her of that clip, I thought were good, to be perfectly frank, and I expected it was going to happen. I didn't quite expect it this soon, and I'm not necessarily surprised. I mean, look, whether she's hoping that Donald Trump loses in November or not, she's got to maintain the appearance that she's, being part of the party and, supporting the nominee and all that good stuff, yada, yada, yada. And maybe she genuinely means it. I could be absolutely wrong on that point. Okay. It's the last 20 seconds or so that I think need to be retranslated, or translated, I should say. I stand by what I said. Donald Trump needs to reach out to the millions of people who supported me. Translation, Donald needs to reach out to me because I'm sitting here and he hasn't done it yet. Listen, there's a significant portion of Nikki Haley voters who are Democrats. And wouldn't surprise me that these primaries that are still ongoing, this 10, 15, 20% of the vote that Nikki Haley is still getting, wouldn't surprise me at all to find out a significant portion of those are Democrats anyway. Look, they know Joe Biden's got the nomination wrapped up. Why should they vote for Biden if he's guaranteed a surety of winning and he will be the nominee going into the August convention? Why not make a little mischief? Okay. So this whole argument about these millions of Nikki Haley voters, all right, of that vote and those who are Republicans, they're going to come home to Trump. Okay. I may not agree, much like Haley, may not agree with him on everything, but they're going to vote for him. To me, this is a this is an attempt at trying to be sly. She's trying to get Trump to reach out to her on the argument that I'm the only one that can get these people to vote for you. This whole thing about Donald Trump needs to reach out to the millions of people who supported me. No. You're wanting Donald Trump to reach out to you. And, the magnanimous handshake. That's what you're wanting, Nikki. You're wanting relevance again. You're wanting back in the spotlight, and just as well as I do, Trump's the only one that can give it to you. And you're trying to use your voters as the means to hold it over his head. Hey, Donald, you better play nice with me. I'm telling you, do not be surprised to find out that's what she's thinking. WWG1 says her tens of supporters need to be brought into the fold. Yeah. Trump may as well reach out to me. I have at least one supporter. That's great. That's great. TBA says millions of Haley supporters. That's news to me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, my goodness. So Nikki Haley has now announced that she's going to vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. Yep. You got it, Z Highness. You got it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Don't forget all this, folks. That's what I've always said. I've got the smartest audience on the internet, and it's stuff like this that proves just why you are that good. Love you guys. I absolutely love you. Oh, what else in the world is going on? Well, there is some more news too. Let us see. Speaking of campaigns, there is another campaign going on right now, although not nearly as public and perhaps not as important as until we get down to November. It broke just this evening. I don't know, probably around, maybe a good 6:30. That Rick Scott has thrown his hat into the ring to be the Senate GOP leader. The Florida Republican lost to Mitch McConnell in 2022 by a wide margin, but earned the support of some conservative colleagues. Florida GOP Senator Rick Scott launched a bid Wednesday to succeed Mitch McConnell as the next Republican leader, telling colleagues he wants to make a dramatic change in the way the conference operates. Okay. The first-term senator will face an uphill battle against Senate Minority Whip John Thune, Republican of South Carolina, and Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, a former whip himself. Scott lost a race to McConnell in 2022, but he won the backing of the conference's most conservative members. He'll likely have their support if he runs again this time. Well, let's see what else have we got here. Scott predicted in his letter to fellow senators that the GOP will take the Senate back, build a larger majority in the House, and elect Donald Trump with a mandate for dramatic change. He said he'll aim to increase transparency, abide by a 6-year leadership term limit, and not pressure his colleagues to vote against their state's wishes. He's also made it clear he will not sign off on deals that unite Democrats and divide Republicans. Well, that's damn sure more than McConnell did, which would include major recent legislation on raising the debt ceiling, government funding, firearm regulation, and infrastructure and microchip manufacturing. All right. So we got Rick Scott in the ring. Now, this could heat up come November. Now, keep an eye on this. Now, for my part, do I think that Rick Scott would be my ideal person to be the leader in the Senate? No, I want some populists. Yeah, exactly, TBA. Rick Scott the Rhino. So, Rick the Rhino. Good name for him. Look, I will be fair about this. Okay? I think Rick Scott's a little more conservative than some of the supposed Senate GOP leadership. I do not want John Thune, and I damn sure don't want John Cornyn. Neither one of those Johns, and it's interesting they've got that name because they do a lot of hoeing, politically speaking. You know what I'm saying? Either one of those two Johns, I don't want either one of them near power in the Senate. Not in the slightest. Do I think Rick Scott is my ideal? No, I'd much rather have a Josh Hawley or, a Rand Paul or somebody else like that. But absent getting one of those guys, all right, I think Rick Scott might be able to do something here. And frankly, I think he'd be much better than Cornyn or Thune. So absent somebody else throwing their hat in the ring, I'll throw my hat in for Rick Scott with caveats about what he is. So there you go. Zippy over on Rumble says, mowed for 2 hours after putting on belt. Here's hoping it does not eat this one, LOL. Well, I hope that mower of yours doesn't eat the belt either. And, dude, put your feet up, pour yourself something. Not necessarily that order, but pour yourself something, put your feet up, and let's talk about the news. Yeah, and I'm with you, TBA. There's a lot of promises. Let's see what he actually does. So there you go. Now, by way of other news, there are some new poll numbers that have come out, and I don't know if you guys have heard about these yet, but No, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Now I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. Okay. Hello, dear. I'm sorry. I saw Gypsy's comment and I felt bad because I didn't say hello to you. So welcome, dear. Glad to see you. Thank you, Gypsy. I appreciate you giving me that little reminder there. Unintentional, but I thank you for the reminder anyway. There's some new polling that's come out, and let me tell you, the wailing and gnashing of teeth continues for Democrats and liberals and progressives all across the country. If you haven't seen this stuff yet, oh man. Morning Consult just came out with their battleground state polls. Check these out. Arizona, Trump +5. Georgia, Trump +3. Michigan, Biden +1. Nevada, tied. That one's weird because the last time that Morning Consult did this poll was about a month ago, and they had Trump with an 8-point lead in Nevada. Now, how you go from being up by 8 points in April to tied in May in Nevada? No idea. That's an erosion. That's an erosion of support. It makes me wonder if they didn't do something different in their methodology, because that's just a little bit crazy. But anyway, let's get back to some of this. Let's see what else we got here. North Carolina, Trump +7. No shock there. Pennsylvania, Trump +2. Wisconsin, Trump +1. Now, there are some other poll results in here, and there's head-to-head, Trump, Biden, and other candidates, but there's one other poll result in here, and I want to talk about this. Okay. Siena College has done a poll of New York State. Biden is leading, but Biden is only leading by 9%. Now, I want to talk about this poll for a second. Now, as regulars to this live stream will know, I've been talking about New York State with a certain amount of gleeful interest for the past few weeks, as I think there's some change in dynamics that are going on. Now, before I get into my next comments, let me add a caveat that I always do. Do I think Donald Trump is going to carry New York? Realistically speaking, no. That said, that does not mean that there are not things going on in New York State that are not worth commenting about. Now, I'm not talking about the trials. The trials are ridiculous. The judicial system up in New York is so exposed for its corruption after the E. Jean Carroll trial and now this trial that Alvin Bragg's been putting on for the past 6 weeks. Do not be shocked. Do not be shocked at all if state legislation and federal legislation doesn't come about to start cleaning up some of the stuff in New York State. And the Democrats have a bigger incentive to do it because they have got to get the spotlight off of how they do things in New York. Okay? They got to get the spotlight off of them because if they're going to keep the status quo up there for themselves and their cronies, they cannot let the light of day shine on just how bad things are in their judiciary up there. Okay? But it's not the corruption or the ineptness or the injustice of the New York judicial system that's grabbing my attention the most. It's the changing political dynamics up in the state. Now, is the state still overwhelmingly Democrat? Yes. Is the state still governed by the Democrats from the constitutional offices all the way down through the legislature? Yes. Is there a Democrat in the mayor's mansion in New York? Yes, I get all that. But the people of New York State, and particularly New York City, man, I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know how deep it goes yet. But there's something happening in the dynamics of what's going on up there, and it's making me keep an eye on New York State. Now, like I said, I don't know that Trump's going to win, and to be honest, I don't think he will. But let me show you something that's giving me pause. I want to go back to that poll in New York, okay? Again, this is from Siena College. Look at this. Biden with a 9-point lead. Now, most people would look at that and go, well, yeah, what's the big deal? Of course he's got a 9-point lead. What do you expect? Okay, granted. I want you to look at something real quick. These are all the polls that have been run for New York State, really from August of last year to current. Okay. Some of this stuff you would expect till it starts tightening up around November. Well, actually, even before that, October of last year. Now, Siena College is really the only group of the only polling firm that's running polls in New York State. Okay, matter of fact, from June of last year till now, we're talking almost a year. They've run the poll. They've been doing polling in New York almost exclusively. Okay, and you're talking about really since maybe call it October. Okay, 9 points, 10 points, 9 points, 12, 10, 9. Okay. I want to show you something about the Siena College poll that's really making me wonder if they're not underestimating how Trump is going to do in New York State. Let me say it again. I'm going to show you something that makes me wonder if Trump's numbers are not being underestimated in New York State. This that I'm going to put up on the screen is from October of 2020. Okay. This is from Siena College. All right. Biden opens up 32-point lead over Trump in New York. This poll was ran probably late September, early October. In Siena College's last poll of New York State, okay, Biden was beating Trump 61-29. That's a 32-point lead. Let me say it again. It's a 32-point lead. The last poll Siena College ran in New York State, Biden versus Trump. Here's the result. Here is the result of, hang on a minute. Here we go. Here is the result, and I think I just froze. Here is the result of New York State. Biden won New York. Gee, no shock there. Okay. But he only won it by 23. Siena College said Biden was going to win New York by 32 points. Biden only won it by 23. That's a difference of 9 points. Keep in mind, Siena College just said that Biden has a 9-point lead on Trump statewide. And the last time they ran a set of presidential polls in New York, they were off by 9 points. Now, hold on, TBA. Hold on. The numbers that CNN put up there, those were the actual vote totals. That wasn't their polling. That was the actual vote total out of New York State. Biden won it by 23 points. But my point is this, assuming that Siena College has not changed their methodology of how they poll New York State, it's very possible that we've got a neck and neck race in New York. Again, I'm not saying, just saying. Let's see what we got over on Rumble here. Yeah, and that TBA, you bring up a very good point. There is a rally coming up in New York City tomorrow in the South Bronx. And by the way, I haven't got any stories pulled up about this, but I'm hearing reports everywhere that the Democrats in the South Bronx are doing everything they can to sabotage that rally. They do not want people showing up for this. All right. The rally is in a place, I think it's called Cortana Park. It's in the South Bronx. Beyond where it is, beyond the name of the location, I don't know anything else about it. What I'm going to be fascinated to see is A, the size of that crowd, and B, I want to see who shows up. I mean, you could make an argument that the Bronx is the most Democrat part of not just New York City, not just New York State, but you can make an argument that it's probably the most Democrat part of the nation. I want to see how many people Trump gets to this rally. I want to see the enthusiasm or the lack thereof. I want to see, what kind of a crowd is it? Is it just, is it African Americans or Hispanics, or would it be Arab American? I want to see the makeup of this crowd. I want to see who we're talking about here. Yeah, I really do. I really want to see what this looks like. TBA says the only way Biden has a lead on Trump in New York is if the Democrat machine is gearing up for massive cheating. Don't be shocked if they are. They will. Yeah. I mean, this rally tomorrow. Now, does this rally make or break what happens to Trump in New York State? No. But they just had a rally in New Jersey where he had 75 to 100,000 people. Okay. I want to see what he gets in the Bronx. Just saying. That race up in New York State may be a whole lot closer than people realize. A ton closer. So, all right, that's the late breaking. And now we're going to get into some stories. Some of them are carryovers from the other day. Some of them are new things, and some of them are stories I came across. I was like, I want to talk about that. And if you just happen to be stopping by this live stream and you're wondering, who is this guy in the hat and what the heck is he talking about? Well, let me give you my introduction. My name is Brian Trippett. I am known in social media as the Front Porch Conservative. This little live stream is known as Front Porch Brunch. We get together usually on 7:30 Monday through Thursday, or I think now it's going to be Monday through Thursday, talking about the news, talking about issues of the day, chatting with each other, having a good old time doing it. So if you're out there and you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do so. I'd love to get you a sub both on YouTube and Rumble. Hit the thumbs up, everybody. Please hit that thumbs up. I would genuinely appreciate it. Love to hear from y'all. Love to hear the support. It's always encouraging to my heart. I heard from one of my very early followers on YouTube the other day, Tennessee Outlaw, and we got a nice little email exchange going with each other. It's good to hear from him. So yeah, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not a member already. Love to have you, and we'll get back to some more chatting on the porch. All right. Shifting to a different topic as I take a sip of water. Yesterday, Julie Kelly, erstwhile reporter and blogger and provocateur in the minds of some people, started showing and posting documents on the internet related to oh, did I say brunch for 7 p.m.? My apologies. I meant Chattin. WWG1. My apologies. Hang on one second. There we go. Okay. Julie Kelly started posting documents related to the Mar-a-Lago raid from back in August of 2022, and she stirred up an absolute hornet's nest and blew the lid off of something that most people did not realize as it related to the Mar-a-Lago raid. Now, if you weren't here yesterday, I will show you what she put up. This is from her Twitter page yesterday. In bold letters, FBI authorized deadly use of force at Mar-a-Lago. Here is part of the sealed documents that are now unsealed. According to Operation Order produced in Discovery, the FBI believed its objective for the Mar-a-Lago raid was to, quote, seize classified information, NDI, and U.S. government records as described in the search warrant, Exhibit 3 at USA, The order contained a policy statement regarding, now get this, the use of deadly force, which stated, for example, quote, law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. The agents planned to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, and medium and large size bolt cutters, but they were instructed to wear unmarked polo or collared shirts and to keep law enforcement equipment concealed. Well, when she started dropping these little jewels of information, all hell broke loose. And it goes a little bit further than that. Now, what is a policy statement on the use of deadly force? Well, she also posted what it was that the FBI issued for the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I'm going to put this up real quick. It's small print, but I'll read it for you. Policy statement on use of deadly force, 7/19 of 2022. Law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. That is, when the officer has a reasonable belief that the subject of such force poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or another person. Deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. Well, that's nice to know. Firearms may not be fired solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at moving vehicles unless a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious injury to the officer or others, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense exists. If feasible, and if to do so would not increase the danger to the officer or others, a verbal warning to submit to the authority of the officer shall be given prior to the use of deadly force. Warning shots are not permitted outside of the prison context. Officers will be trained in alternative methods and tactics for handling resisting subjects, yada, yada, and on it goes. Okay. Now, I'm going to pose a question to you that I posed last night, and I'm still waiting for somebody in the mainstream media to give me an answer to this. Why would you need to authorize the use of deadly force for the retrieval of documents? Let me ask that question again. Why would you need to authorize the use of deadly force for the retrieval of documents that, according to the government, belong in the National Archives and Records Administration, in their possession? Now, Julie Kelly brought up a fascinating point, and I think this needs to be mentioned. And it's very important. We're talking about a raid on, first of all, the home of the former president of the United States, who, by the way, up and until the time of this raid, had been fully cooperating with the National Archives and Records Administration for the return of documents. Yes, there had been some back and forth between lawyers of both places, Trump's lawyers, NARA's lawyers, but Trump had been fully cooperating. As a matter of fact, about 2 months prior to the raid, he had welcomed law enforcement officials into his home and came down and talked to them personally while they were checking records and said, hey, fellas, if you need anything else, let me know. Okay? So we're not talking about somebody here that you would think would be resisting the idea of turning over the documents. Now, he might have a question about what he ought to be turning over. He might dispute what ought to be given back to the government. he might say, hey, this is my personal property. Can I have a little bit of time to look this stuff over so I can separate what's my personal effects to what's government, yada, 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 and which some of that was even going on. Okay. But again, why would you need to authorize the use of deadly force for the retrieval of documents? Now, okay, I might give you that if it weren't for everything else that I just said. Oh, I'm not surprised that there's an authorization for the use of deadly force by FBI. I just don't understand why it's being done here in light of the fact that the Trump had been cooperating. And furthermore, Trump wasn't even there. What are we talking about? Well, as I said, when Julie Kelly posted all this stuff, all hell broke loose. And it got so bad last night. I think Robert's being facetious. Now, I could be misinterpreting what he's saying, but I think he's being facetious. And then Robert, if you straighten me out, because I want to make sure I'm clearly understanding you on this. It got so bad last night, the blowback off of this thing, including Trump's post on Truth Social, that the FBI issued a statement about this. Okay. And the statement says the following: the FBI followed standard protocol in this search, as we do all search warrants, which include a standard policy statement limiting the use of deadly force. No one ordered additional steps to be taken, and there was no departure from the norm in this matter. But again, I come back to the question: why do you have to authorize deadly force for the retrieval of documents? Documents, by the way, that the former president had been more than willing to try to work with NARA on this. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I understand you on this. Again, okay, boilerplate. I don't necessarily disagree with your statement, but again, if you've got a former president of the United States who's been cooperating with everybody to the point he's literally walking down to the area where the law enforcement's at 2 months before and saying to them, hey, fellas, if you need anything, just let me know. I'll be happy to cooperate with you on this. Why do they even have to authorize deadly force? What we're talking about, taking back boxes of documents, or maybe not even boxes of documents. Let's just talk about one document. Okay. Well, the press got a hold of what the FBI said, and Catherine Flanders from ABC News says the following: what Trump is claiming is a distortion of what revealed in docs, which shows it's a reflection of standard FBI policy when conducting such a search. No indication this is a departure from standard posture anytime the FBI is conducting law enforcement activity. Okay, but again, Catherine, will you please answer my question? Why do you need to authorize the use of deadly force for the retrieval of documents? I mean, what do you think? Someone down there is gonna resist this? This makes no sense. Hell, Trump's not even there. He's up in New Jersey when this damn deal's going down. Well, it goes a little further than that. Everybody's chiming in on this, as you might very well expect. And Julie Kelly, in response to all this, brought up a very good point, and I think it's worth considering. From her Twitter page, federal law specifically covers former presidents and their families. Same for individuals who are under Secret Service protection. Is there an exemption for the FBI? And then this is a valid question she's asking here. What if Trump had shown up at Mar-a-Lago to defend his property? What if he refused to allow FBI agents into Melania's room or Barron's room? Okay, that's a straight legitimate question. I mean, let's just play this out for a second. What if Trump had been there? What if the FBI agent said, look, we need to search Mrs. Trump's room. We need to search your son's room. And Trump had said no. Now, granted, it's 2 years after the fact, and we're dealing in a hypothetical here, and we don't know what was going through people's minds, including, by the way, to be fair, the agents of the FBI who were conducting this raid. All right? But for me, I don't like the idea of putting a can of gasoline and a lit torch near each other. You may not get an explosion, but you've definitely got the potential for one if something happens. Anyway, let's go back to her tweet. How would the Secret Service have responded? What about armed FBI agents? There are no clear-cut answers, and anyone pretending to know is a total fraud. And she brings up part of U.S. Code, which is 18 USC 879, threats against former presidents and certain other persons. Whoever knowingly and willfully threatens to kill, kidnap, or inflict bodily harm upon a former president or a member of the immediate family of a former president, a member of the immediate family of the president-elect, the vice president-elect, a major candidate for the president or vice president, or a member of the immediate family, such as candidate, a person under Secret Service protection shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. I mean, look, it's like I said, it's 2 years, almost 2 years after the fact. But I know I keep harping on this question and I apologize, but it's a question that somebody needs to answer. And not just for me, not because I'm asking it. I think for the peace of mind of a lot of people in America. To the FBI, why did you feel the need to authorize the use of deadly force for the retrieval of documents? I hang on. We're coming to that, Gypsy. We're coming to it. TBA says, we all know why lethal force was approved. The deep state hoped there would be an act. Yeah. Like I said, it's not guaranteed that if you put a can of gasoline and a torch within proximity of each other, that an explosion will happen, but you definitely increase the probability. Anywho, Dan Bongino weighed in on this. This is absolutely a big deal. Don't buy the bullshit otherwise. This is not a standard op. The Mar-a-Lago raid was an unprecedented action with significant potential for confusion and blue-on-blue issues and conflict. It also involved competing equities between federal agencies, the FBI and the United States Secret Service, with equal statutory claims to interpret the other's activities. Anyone telling you otherwise is either dumb or plain dumb. I've done more deconfliction with Russians in a foreign op I did for the U.S. Secret Service than the FBI did in their search warrant for Mar-a-Lago. Only a dumbass would pitch its standard paperwork line. And that, by the way, that's no offense to anybody here in the audience. Just that's his take. Go serve a search warrant at the White House in the cocaine case while filling up your standard paperwork and see how that works out for you. Wake up. Well, that's Bongino's take on it. And actually, I think I've got a clip where he's talking about this. I want to play this for you just to kind of give it a little more context. So here's Bongino's take on a little more take on it.
Yeah, what they're talking about. Folks, there is nothing about this that was standard. The entire United States government, when it comes to blue on blue, force situations, Congress people, senators, the president of the United States operates in a gray area that's constantly litigated. Anyone telling you it's a standard plan, and this was a standard ops plan to discuss use of force options at freaking Mar-a-Lago with the former president, I'm sorry, is a freaking moron. And you should never listen to anything they say again. I am not kidding. This was not SOP. Question is not.
Okay. And keep in mind, he's former Secret Service. So if anybody would have a take on this, he would know. Brian Dean Wright, who is a podcaster, his Twitter page, spoke with friends of mine who are still at the Bureau. No one thought it was wise or prudent to have authorization of deadly force during the Mar-a-Lago raid. One of them even said, quote, "We kill someone over documents at a U.S. president's house? Stupid, unnecessary, and not normal." Dan is right here. And to the reference that Gypsy made, this is from Molly Hemingway, writer at the Federalist. Even senior FBI agents thought the plan from Biden's AG to use heavily armed agents to raid Mar-a-Lago was absolutely insane. Prosecutors argued that new evidence suggested Trump was knowingly concealing secret documents at his Palm Beach home and urged the FBI to conduct a surprise raid at the property, but two senior FBI officials who would be in charge of leading the search resisted the plan as too combative and proposed instead to seek Trump's permission to search the property, according to the four people who spoke on condition of anonymity to describe a sensitive investigation. Yeah. I mean, this is the point. I mean, you have the United States Secret Service, which is sworn to protect the President of the United States, and you have the FBI being authorized to use deadly force if they deem it necessary. What happens if these two agencies with authorizations to use weaponry are forced into conflict with each other? Now, thank God it didn't happen. But again, you've got a former president of the United States who was cooperating, with the National Archives and Records Administration on trying to get whatever documents back they felt should be theirs. There was back and forth between the lawyers. They'd been down there 2 months before. Trump told them, "Hey, look, fellas, if you need anything else, to help you with your whatever you're doing, just let me know. I'll try and cooperate. I'll do my best to cooperate." And then 2 months later, they're raiding the place with authorization to use deadly force for document retrieval. Just seems crazy to me. Just absolutely crazy. It is frightening. It really is. Absolutely frightening. Oh, goodness. Let's talk about the U.S. economy for a few minutes. The elites in this country are a bit confused. Now, I know that most people in this audience who hear that statement are like, "Oh, come on. Of course they're confused." Yeah, exactly. Okay. But they're more confused than ever because they don't understand why you and I feel the way we do. To which I know you're sitting out there saying, "Okay, Brian, what are you getting at?" Well, they don't understand why we seem to feel that the economy is bad. They don't get it. The elites in this country, be it in the media or government or wherever you want to say these folks are at, just don't understand why we're so upset about the economy. Now, if you want proof of what I'm saying, check this story out from the UK Guardian. Majority of Americans wrongly believe U.S. is in a recession and most blame Biden. Okay, this doesn't come as major news to most people here. Let us continue with this. Nearly 3 in 5 Americans wrongly believe the U.S. is in an economic recession. Oh, well, huh? What? Wrongly believe? Well, let's see what else they're getting at here. But I love the way the tone of this thing starts out. And the majority blame the Biden administration, according to a Harris poll conducted exclusively for The Guardian. The survey found persistent pessimism about the economy as Election Day draws closer. The poll highlighted many misconceptions people have about the economy. Misconceptions, he says. 55% believe the economy is shrinking, and 56% think that the U.S. is experiencing a recession, though the broadest measure of the economy, gross domestic product, has been growing. 49% believe the S&P stock market index is down for the year, though the index went up about 24% in 2023 and is up more than 12% this year. 49% believe that the unemployment is at a 50-year high, though the unemployment rate has been under 4%, a near 50-year low. Many Americans put the blame on Biden for the state of the economy, with 58% of those polled saying that the economy is worsening due to mismanagement from the presidential administration. The poll underscored people's complicated emotions about inflation. The vast majority of respondents, 72%, indicated that they think inflation is increasing. In reality, the rate of inflation has fallen sharply from its post-COVID peak of 9.1% and has been fluctuating between 3 and 4% a year. In April, inflation went down from 3.5 to 3.4, far from inflation's 40-year peak of 9.1% in June 2022, triggering a stock market rally that pushed the Dow Jones to a new record high. A recession is generally defined by a decrease in economic activity, particularly measured as gross domestic product, over two successive quarters. Although in the U.S., the National Bureau of Economic Research has the final say, U.S. GDP has been rising over the past few years, barring a brief contraction in 2022, in which the NEBR did not deem a recession. Now, I want to go to the last paragraph of this article from the UK Guardian. And this is fairly telling. Okay. Quote, what Americans are saying in this data is, economists may say things are getting better, but we're not feeling it where I live, says John Gerzema, CEO of the Harris Poll. Unwinding 4 years of uncertainty takes time. Leaders have to understand this and bring the public along. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. Okay. And WWG1 makes a really good point on Rumble, and I'll read this before I get into my comments on. The deep state is losing their grip on the brainwashing and gaslighting of the American people. Too many of us are waking up. They're screwed in the long run. And I agree with that. I agree. I agree. Y'all have often heard me use the expression, don't piss down my back and try and convince me that it's raining. Let me do it this way. Technically speaking, I can see, in one sense, what the UK Guardian is trying to say here. All right? I mean, yeah, technically, they're right. 55% believe the economy is shrinking. 56% think the economy is experiencing recession, though the broadest measure of the economy, GDP, has been growing. 49% believe that the S&P is down, which actually it's up. 49% believe unemployment's at a 50-year high, yada, yada, yada. Technically, they're right, okay? But they're not walking in everybody else's shoes. And there's some stuff I see comments already said far more eloquently than I ever could. But here's the point that I'm getting at. Okay. Look, when you have to work 2 or 3 jobs, in one sense, they're right. Unemployment is, 3 point, really low right now. Unemployment's like 3%. It's at a record low. You hear this all the time. Every time the Bureau of Labor Statistics report comes out about the unemployment rate, that the unemployment rate is at 3%. It's at an all-time low. Yeah, what the report's not telling you is that people are having to work 2 or 3 jobs for the same standard of living that they enjoyed just a few years ago. Oh, inflation's down. It was at 9%, but it's down now to like 3.4%. Yeah, 3.4% year over year and still going up. So people are having to work 2 or 3 jobs for the same standard of living that they had just a few years ago when they only had to work 1. Inflation is up, which causes their purchasing power to go down. You've got people that are having to live off of credit cards and other means to try and get by because their dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. And the elites don't understand why we the people are not happy about the state of the economy. Oh, the stock market's at an all-time high. That's great. But that's not putting food on my table. It's not paying my house payment. It's not paying my utilities. It's not putting gas in my car. Stock market can be at 40,000. Dow Jones can be at 4,000 points all at once, 40,000 points all it wants to. That doesn't mean anything to the guy who's having trouble putting food on his table or putting clothes on his kids' backs or making sure that the rent payment's made. It just boggles my mind the level of arrogance that the elites, be they in academia or journalism or government or anywhere, the level of arrogance that they have toward their fellow man. And let's get to some of y'all's comments because these are absolutely great. Robert says, some D-bag that doesn't do his own groceries isn't the arbiter of the economy. Daggone straight, my friend. Daggone straight. And the professors weighed in on this. Good to have you here, Mr. Watson. GDP is not a total measure of economic health, especially when it's being produced. What is being produced is not going as far. Daggone right. A retraction is in inflation doesn't mean yep. Oh, absolutely it is. Completely. Yep. You got it. WWG1 over on Rumble says the elites know exactly what they have wrought and now they're trying to save themselves. You got it. This, I'm old-fashioned enough. I have a term for what's being done here. The modern term for it is gaslighting. Okay? They're trying to convince you that, when you feel something wet going down your back, you're not being peed on, you're being rained on. In my case, I got an old-fashioned term for what's going on here. This is bullshitting. Okay? This is just pure, unadulterated BS. Technically, that article's correct. But Christian Watson makes the point. Y'all, Robert's making the point. Gypsy's making the point. Everybody on this channel understands exactly what's being said here. These stats don't mean a thing in the life of the average person. It doesn't mean a thing. And Christian, I love the way you put this. A retraction in inflation doesn't mean the damage from inflation hasn't already been done. You are absolutely right. It's still there. Which, by the way, and I said a minute ago, the elites don't understand why we don't seem to get it. How things are so good, and you just can't understand why the plebes out there are just not happy about it. You don't believe me? Take a look at this. This is the Kobisi letter on Twitter. Kobisi is an industry-leading commentary on global capital markets. Look at the last sentence they got on this tweet. Why is there such a big disconnect between the data and reality? Oh, I don't know, because maybe your data and your reality does not reflect what's going on in our lives. It doesn't reflect the reality of where we live. You guys may be technically right that, inflation is only 3.4% and unemployment's at a 50-year low and the stock market's at an all-time high and all that happy jazz, but nobody's feeling it because they're working 2 or 3 jobs. Their purchasing power doesn't go as far as it used to. Rent is going up all the time. Interest rates on mortgages are sky high, which means young people who are trying to buy houses for the first time cannot afford them. You've got an economy that's not producing goods and services. It's a service economy. That's what Biden's turned this back into. And when I say turn it back into, this is what was going on during the Obama years. It's the same thing. Yeah, the unemployment rate was low and wages weren't going up. But the reason people didn't feel it quite as badly is you didn't have the inflation back in the Obama years that you got right now. Now the fact that wages aren't keeping up with what's going on is coupled with nasty old inflation, and now you notice it even more. Obama's economy wasn't all that good. It never was. Statistically, it was good. But practically speaking, nobody was any better off. And Biden has more or less recreated in 4 years what it took Obama to do in 8. WWG1 over on Rumble says, ever notice inflation never goes away? It just slows down like the 2% target rate with the Fed. Why? Because it's impossible to pay back what we owe. It's designed that way. Bingo. The only way to pay back the debt is another Federal Reserve note to be borrowed at interest. And this one's a really great point. In 2019, a dozen eggs were $1.99. And exactly. We're all too dumb to realize just how good we've got it. Silly people that we are. How could we be so stupid not to realize how good Joe Biden and the Democrats and the Federal Reserve and the barons on Wall Street have made the economy for all of us? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm just silly enough to believe that a standard of living ought to be good enough. You should only have to work one job, and that the dollar in my wallet should actually buy more goods and services than what's currently happening to me right now. But I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm being that I'm so silly and so stupid and so thick-headed that I don't realize how good I've got it. I'm just a dummy. Oh, the economy's good? Oh, that's great. Oh my God. Oh, hold on to that, Gypsy. Hold on to that. We're getting to it. How good is the Biden economy right now, by the way? You know, when things are great, when unemployment's at 3.4%, when inflation is low and now under control and all that good stuff, how good's the economy, you ask? Gypsy forwarded this to me today, and I'm going to bring this to you. Here's a list of restaurants that are closing in 2024. Okay. Fuddruckers is expected to close all locations by end of year. Old Country Buffet is closing all remainder locations. IHOP is closing 100. Buffalo Wild Wings is closing all of their Canada locations and 60 here in the U.S. Applebee's is closing 35. Red Lobster is closing. Denny's is closing 20 by the end of the year. Marie Calendar is shutting down all remaining locations. Pizza Hut is planning to close 500 locations across the U.S. Outback Steakhouse is closing down 41 of their 700 locations. Sbarro, 50. On and on and on it goes. But unemployment's at a 50-year low, don't you know? And it's not just related to the food industry where you're seeing this stuff happen. There are more and more reports coming out all the time of layoffs in different sectors of the economy. It's a little bit over here and a little bit over there, and before you know it, that little bit adds up to a whole lot. Zippy over on Rumble. Thank you for the Rumble rant, by the way. Have some lunch money. Dude, to borrow a line from AC/DC, have a drink on me. Now, tell me that I've got this one. Tell me that I've got this one. Oh, I do. Thank God.
Just to put a fine point on it right now for the...
Don't you dare get ahead of me. Sorry. So you want another example of the elites not quite understanding why we don't think the economy's all that good. So did you guys hear recently? And give me a F in chat. Give me an F in chat if you heard about this. Apparently, the Biden administration is forgiving more student debt. Okay. Read a report the other day that they're giving away. I shouldn't say give away. They're forgiving about 165 million more in student debt, as I heard about it. So NBC's Peter Alexander, who covers the White House, did something today, and I have to say I'm proud of the boy. He asked a question. That actually is almost an effort of good journalism. I gotta give him credit for it. So he's up there talking to Jean-Claude Pierre, Karine Jean-Claude Pierre, my loving nickname for her, and asks a really good question. Check this out.
Just to put a fine point on it right now, for the 4.7 million Americans who have received this debt relief, the average, as you said at the start of this visit, was $35,000 their relief has been for. So I guess why don't those individuals who didn't receive $35,000 in debt cancellation deserve a $35,000 check from other Americans for what other means they would want to use?
Oh! Give that boy a cigar. Give that boy a cigar. He asked a fabulous question. Hey, Jean-Claude Jean-Pierre, how come you guys are giving away $35,000 per person of student debt forgiveness, but for everybody else who doesn't have student debt, they don't get anything? Hey, I give the guy credit. That's a reasonable question. You want to hear her answer? Check this out. Well, there we go.
You're talking about
Those
the
people who didn't go to college, so they're not getting debt relief, the $35,000 that they don't get because they didn't go.
We're talking about folks who are in debt who are literally being crushed.
Excuse me, lady. I may not have student debt, but I feel like I'm being crushed. I mean, I'll let everybody in this chat, they can speak for themselves. But excuse me, I'd like to have some relief. I'd like to be able to go to the grocery store and buy a lot of groceries where my money used to allow me to be able to do that. I can't do that anymore, lady. Whenever I go to the gas pump, it almost makes me want to cry. So please don't give me this, oh, well, they've got student debt and they're just being crushed. What about the rest of us, lady? What, do we not count? Why is it because they've got student debt, they're the special class? Yeah, and this is a valid point too. Very true. Very true. That's fair. That is fair. Let's listen to the rest of her profound piece of wisdom answer.
Literally being crushed because they took
Literally being crushed.
financially. Okay, is that okay with you? Okay.
That's a little bit snarky. Well, then again, he did kind of give her a smart ass answer.
Okay, but I know, but crushed financially, and so they're trying to get their lives back on track, right?
This just makes my blood boil. Just absolutely makes my blood boil. The arrogance of these people is just astounding to me. Ugh. One last thought on this. And I really want to recommend this to you. It's an article by Michael Barone, who I love Barone. He is an, I hate using the term old timer, but he really is. If you're not familiar with Michael Barone, have you ever heard of the Encyclopedia of American Politics? That is Michael Barone's contribution to political dialogue in America. Michael Barone is an absolute walking encyclopedia on two legs of information about American politics. I would love, genuinely, what the heck have I got to lose? I might as well just shoot him an invitation sometime. But if he ever did accept it, I would love to just sit down and talk political stories with him because it would be great. But Barone has got an article out with the Washington Examiner. The headline is Biden's not fooling anyone on the economy. If you want to explain to a puzzled left-leaning writer like The Atlantic's Annie Lowry why most voters this year rate the economy during Donald Trump's presidency more favorably than that during President Joe Biden's, start with a simple pair of charts. Lowry said the Biden years have seen the strongest economy that the U.S. has ever experienced. She cited an unemployment rate below 4%, wage growth higher than at any point during the Obama presidency, and stronger pay increases than any in the past 50 years. Inflation, she noted defensively, has cooled off considerably. That's all well and good, and you can hear similar thoughts from Democratic economists and Biden administration spokespeople, together sometimes with suggestions that many voters are, well, just not knowledgeable or sophisticated enough to appreciate the bounty the administration has produced. In response, look at a pair of charts tweeted by Republican consultant Patrick Ruffini as evidence of how Joe Biden is losing the election with an economy like this. They come from an article in last weekend's Wall Street Journal by Greg Ip and Rosie Ettenheim. After comparing rises in the Dow Jones average during two presidencies, the writers focused on a better measure of financial wealth, net worth, including not only financial assets but real property minus debt. Nominal growth in the first 3 years of both administrations was robust, 23% during Trump's and 19% during Biden's. That's reflected in the first pair of the charts. The second takes inflation into account and shows the changes in household net worth. The first year saw modest increases under 10%, but 15 months in, the lines diverge. Real household net worth kept climbing during the Trump presidency, with some downward spikes coinciding with the November 2018 off-year election and the imposition of COVID restrictions. Altogether, inflation-adjusted household net worth grew at a robust 16% during the Trump presidency. In contrast, the line showing real household net worth during Biden's presidency shoots downward in the summer of 22, following and perhaps sustained the plunge of Biden's job approval after the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. For the last 2 years, real household net worth has mostly continued in negative territory, finally poking just barely above the January 2021 level. For the total Biden presidency so far, Ip and Ettenheim reported it is barely perceptible 0.7%. Given these numbers, it should not be entirely mysterious why many people, including most partisan Republicans, but many Democrats as well, don't believe they are witnessing the strongest economy the U.S. has ever experienced. And Barone absolutely nails this. I've seen the chart that he's referring to. If I can find it real fast, I'll put it up here. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I saw this the other day. Yeah, here it is. I think I've got it. Come on, baby. Where is it? Come on, tell me I can get to you quick. I'm looking. Come on. Oh, here it is. I found it. Good, cool. Check this out. This is the chart that Barone's referring to. Okay. Take a look at this. The first chart is nominal value. The blue line represents Biden, the red line represents Trump, okay? Nominal value, change in household net worth since the start of their presidency, okay? All right, they look somewhat similar, all right? Now, take a look at nominal net worth, household net worth, if you adjust it for inflation. Adjusted for inflation, household net worth, change in household net worth under Biden is a mere 0.7% in growth. But with Trump, it's like 16%. I mean, it's not I mean, to those out there like the writers at the Atlantic or writers of the Wall Street Journal or Robert Reich or or Paul Krugman or all these, left-leaning economists and government think tank people or whatever, it's not that hard to figure out. Trump created a better economy that even if you adjust it for inflation, people's net worth still went up. Biden can't say the same thing. It just really boggles the mind. It really does. And I love the way Patrick Ruffini puts this, how Joe Biden is losing the election with an economy like this. Good stuff. Yeah, I recommend that that article from Barone and Patrick Ruffini's. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Hang on. Let me drop these in chat. You guys want to take a look at this? There we go. Yeah, check those out at your convenience. Hang on a second. Let me do it on the other. Let me do this on the Rumble side too, to be totally fair to everybody. Give me 1 second here, folks. Yeah. Here's one. Yeah, these two are really good to take a look at together. So and now let me get that. Let me get that tweet by Ruffini. Oh, come on. Stop doing this to me. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Be right back. Do. Just about got it. Hang on, folks. Yeah, these both are definitely worth having. So if anybody ever gives you any grief about it, tell them to check these out. Just show it to them. It'll absolutely make them mad. Yeah, here it is. Okay. And got it. Okay. All right, cool. All right, back to some other things to talk about. Oh. If someone were to do, yeah, absolutely, I would, because that's a subject absolutely worth talking about. Absolutely, I would. Yeah, brother, if you've already got that one in the can and you're ready to publish it and put it up there, let me know and I'll advertise the crap out of it for you. If you haven't, you ought to do it. So yeah, that I'd absolutely watch it. I would. I want to talk about something. It's a story that's been going on for a while, and for people living in Ohio, Robert, and I'm thinking of you in particular, this one is fairly interesting. Now, I don't know how much you guys have heard about this, but there have been commentators, myself included, but more particularly folks like Real American Politics and others, There's a very interesting thing going on in Ohio at this point related to the presidential election. Now, let me explain how this works and what gets you up to speed. Under Ohio law, the presidential candidates must be certified and be on the ballot 90 days before the election. Okay. Well, this year there's a little bit of a problem, and it's this. The Democrat National Convention doesn't take place until the third week of August. The deadline for the state of Ohio is August the 7th. Okay. Which means something's got to give. Either the Democrats change the date of the National Convention, or the Ohio legislature makes an exemption to the law to allow Joe Biden to be on the ballot for president come November. Well, up to now, I haven't really paid a lot of attention to this beyond what I see in the headlines and what folks like Real American Politics and other commentators in the what I call the Polytube have been saying about this. And the last that I had heard about it was that the Ohio legislature was in the process of passing a bill to allow an exemption to get Joe Biden certified to be on the ballot in Ohio for the presidential election this fall. They'd run into a snag but they're still working out. I mean, look, I am all for the idea of making sure that the candidate that I'm either supporting or working for has every tactical advantage going into an election. Legally permissible tactical advantage, let me put it that way. However, we're talking about an election for the presidency of the United States. Okay, look, and I agree. This is one of those rare moments when I agree with Mike DeWine. Yeah, Biden ought to be on the ballot. I mean, DeWine might be a Republican. The state legislature might be controlled by the Republicans. But, it's a presidential election. A Democrat and a Republican. And DeWine said, yeah, there's no way in hell Joe Biden's not going to be on the ballot. Folks, get ready, because I'm not so sure that Biden's going to be on the ballot in November. A letter came out yesterday from Frank LaRose, who is the Ohio Secretary of State. And Robert, if you've got any updated information on this, let me know. But I want to read this for the audience because this is pretty good. Dated May 21st, 2024, to the Chairwoman Liz Waters, Ohio Democrat Party, yada, yada, yada. Dear Chairwoman Walters, I write to inform you that my office still has not received communication on behalf of the Ohio Democrat Party or the Democrat National Committee that clarifies the party's intent to comply with Ohio's ballot access deadline. As previously explained, the Ohio Revised Code requires a political party selecting its presidential and vice presidential candidates by nominating convention to, quote, certify the names of those candidates to the Secretary of State on or before the 90th day before the day of the general election. The conflict between the August 7th, 2024 certification deadline and the date of your party's nominating convention is well established. In my correspondence to you dated April the 5th, 2024, I offered two possible remedies. A change in the date by which your party formally nominates a presidential candidate, or action by the Ohio General Assembly to create an exception to the statutory requirement. Today, the Ohio Speaker of the House told members of the media that there would not be a legislative solution, as there is just not the will to do that from the legislature. With a legislative remedy taken off the table, I must remind you that the deadline is fast approaching and that the matter remains unresolved. Unless your party plans to comply with the statutory deadline, I am duty-bound to instruct boards of election to begin preparing ballots that do not include the Democrat Party's nominee for president and vice president of the United States. Let me be clear, this is not an action that I wish to take, as I believe it to be in the best interest of Ohio voters to have a choice between at least the two major parties for the nation's highest office. Unfortunately, however, the Ohio House of Representatives has refused to act, and the Democrat Party so far offered no legally acceptable remedy. As the Ohio Attorney General's office has advised my office, the Democrat Party's offer to submit a, quote, provisional certification by the statutory deadline simply is not provided for by law, and there is no provision in Ohio election code that would permit the Secretary to provide the Democrat Party with an alternative process to the one required in statute. Further, the General Assembly has clearly stated that, quote, no public official shall cause an election to be conducted other than at the time, place, and manner as prescribed in the revised code. The integrity of our elections begins with our citizenry having full faith and confidence that their chief election officer will follow the law. As such, my office seeks a remedy that both upholds the law and serves in the best interest of the voters of our state. I trust you will act quickly to resolve this conflict so we can move forward with clarity in preparing for the November election. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. In your service, Frank LaRose, Ohio Secretary of State. Oh my goodness. Well, it's not okay. Here's what it gets down to. The Democrats' convention runs the third week of August. I think it's in like the 20th, 23rd, somewhere in there. The deadline to certify for the state of Ohio to be on the ballot is August 7th. Okay? And by the way, Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State, has been telling the Democrat Party, hey guys, you've only got one of two choices here. Either you guys change the date of your convention, or, we get you some kind of exemption through the legislature, which, by the way, the Republicans have been trying to do this. You want to know what the big bugaboo is in the House of Representatives? When the Senate, the Republican-controlled state Senate, sent over the bill that would have made an exception to get Joe Biden on the ballot, the Senate president had a provision included in the bill that said that we do not want any foreign money used to influence any elections in the state of Ohio. And for some reason, and I don't quite understand where this broke down in the House. And Robert, like I said, if you understand what's going on better than I do, brother, let me hear it. For some reason, Democrats over in the House just balked at that provision, which to me seems crazy. But the Ohio Speaker of the House apparently announced, I guess Monday or maybe over the weekend. Well, let me go back here real quick. I got to see this letter real quick. Yeah, it was yesterday. The Speaker of the House of the state of Ohio said, "Look, guys, we can't get a bill passed. It's the will to do it is not there." And for the record, before anybody start saying, "Oh yeah, the Republicans don't have the will to do it. They just don't want Biden on the ballot." No. I mean, I take them at their word. I take Mike DeWine, Frank LaRose. I take them at their word. They're willing to make an exception to get him on the ballot. TBA says, "Oh, so Ohio House Democrats know foreign monies are going to be tracked." Yeah. So, I mean, I take the Republicans in Ohio at their word. They're willing to try to work this out. They tried to work this out. They can't do it. So there's only one solution left, unless the Democrats can come up with something else, which at this point I don't see how they can. There's only one other solution. They got to change the date of the convention. And apparently at this point, they're not willing to do it. I'm going to keep an eye on this, and other people are too. But I'm telling you right now, if the Democrats don't do something about this, there is the very serious risk that Joe Biden is not going to be on the ballot in the state of Ohio for the November election. Now, some people are going to sit there and say, well, okay, no big deal. He was never going to win Ohio anyway. Well, that may be true, but that's not the point. If Joe Biden and his campaign just write off Ohio, guys like Sherrod Brown, who is in a tough race against Bernie Moreno, his goose may be cooked. And not just Sherrod Brown. We're talking about Democrats going all the way down the ticket. Joe Biden and his campaign may be about to slit the political throat of every fellow Democrat in the Buckeye State. Now, again, we'll see how this plays out. But as it stands right now, if the Democrats don't come up with a solution, Biden's not going to be on the ballot in Ohio. Which, by the way, before anybody says anything, this same problem existed down in Alabama. Alabama found a way to work with the Democrats on this. Okay? I think Montana had the same issue going on. They found a way to work with the Democrats on this. But for some strange reason, the Democrats can't seem to work this out with the Republicans in Ohio. Now, and Gypsy, you may be absolutely right. You may be absolutely right. But as it stands right now, he's not going to be on the ballot. If this actually, I'm telling you, if this goes down and I'm a Democrat in the state of Ohio, and someone mentions Joe Biden's name to me, I'd spit on the ground. And that's probably the kindest thing I'd do. TBA says 17 electoral votes go automatically to Trump. Yeah. And I hope all the Dems gooses are cooked, but it sounds like the Dems don't want to take the bait from the Secretary of State. Isn't this? Oh, this is absolutely fun. Now, again, maybe this gets worked out, but this is getting kind of serious. And again, it's not like Frank LaRose and Mike DeWine and all the other Republican officials in Ohio aren't, trying to work with the Democrats on this and say, hey guys, what do you want to do here? They're trying to get them a solution, and nobody at the DNC or the Ohio Democrat Party is playing ball. I don't know how else to interpret it. But can you imagine if it is officially announced, that Joe Biden will not be on the ballot in Ohio, of his own doing, by the way? If he gets left off this ballot, he's got nobody to blame but himself. Can you imagine the shock of horror that's going to go through the campaign office at Sherrod Brown's headquarters? Yeah, and it might happen. Maybe the Republicans are being overly accommodating. I can understand that. And they might cave. Maybe it is a distraction. But, I find this to be absolutely fascinating. I really do. I find this to be interesting. Joe Biden and the Democrats are absolutely blowing this off, and they're making a mistake doing it. Like I said, Biden's not going to take Ohio. But if he doesn't get this problem straightened out, he is absolutely going to stab his fellow Democrats in Ohio in the back. So, anywho, let's see. We've got some other stuff. I'll save that. I'm going to save that for the weekend because this stuff's really good. Tell you what, this is we have come to the end of Chatting on the Porch. I want to thank all of y'all for being here tonight. This has been a load of fun. Please remember, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, got some old friends swinging by the electronic front porch, and we're going to do a Pride Month preview. Mike Harlow, Daniel, and Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric Podcast, Gothics, are all going to be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I'm already getting complaints about the thumbnail. And already getting complaints. And believe it or not, it's from Daniel. He's like, where's your picture? How come you're not in this thing? All right, Daniel, I'm working on it. You know, yeah, I will tell you what, I will add that to the list of weekend topics. So, but yeah, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, please stop by. Can't wait to see y'all there. Thanks for being here tonight. This has been a load of fun. And yeah, we'll talk about the Trump rally this weekend. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Thanks for being here tonight, guys. I love you. We'll see you later.